Hey, this is Heather Langenkamp from the Nightmare on Elm Street series, and you are listening to the Don't Go Out There podcast.
In a world where zombies, ghosts, serial killers, and vampires all exist, it's Nico, Brian, Mike, and Dustin, and they are all that stand between you and the films that could end the world. Welcome to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast.
Welcome back to the Don't Go Out There Horror Movie Podcast. We appreciate y'all tuning in. We have returning guest and friend of ours, Nancy Andrade. You know, she was on the Spooky Empire 2024 recap with me many, many moons ago. Man, time flies, doesn't it? Feel like we just did that episode. But she's been doing a really cool thing on Instagram, talking about women in horror. I'm just going to pass it right off to Nancy and let her, she hit me up, and I think it's going to be a good idea. Go ahead, Nancy, take over.
So yeah, as you guys know, it's March, and March is International Women's Month, and we all have a favorite final girl, right? So obviously women are very pivotal to horror, but it's more than just the final girl conversation. So I thought it would be a good idea to just chat about the female perspective in horror, the importance of women in horror, and kind of how the roles of women in horror have evolved over the years.
Absolutely. And like you mentioned, like off the air, it's coming from a woman's perspective as well, not just for dudes, so you definitely have a totally different perspective than we do.
for maybe the first time in Don't Go Out There history, we'll have a female perspective on the show, which is great. It's great. It's needed.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, you sent a really awesome breakdown of what you want to discuss. So I'll just let you take over, Nancy. And if you ever go to Spooky Empire, she does a lot of the panels there, and she's great.
Thank you, Nico. I appreciate that. So something that I actually saw earlier today, I saw an interview with Sarah Michelle Gellar, an all-timer for us, where she was talking about women in horror and how people always ask, why do you do horror? But nobody ever asks comedians why they do comedy, or action stars why they do action. And when you think about those movies, when you think about a superhero film and you think of James Bond, these are the examples she gave. They're all male-dominated characters in films. But in horror, it's a place where women can be both. Women can be the hero and the villain, and women have been the hero and the villain, sometimes in the same film. And it's just a completely different expectation that the audience has when they're watching a film a horror film specifically, that's led by a woman, right? So Absolutely. Some of the things that I was thinking about when we were going over what we're going to talk about today is that dichotomy of the hero versus the villain, right? So we have, for example, Scream 4. I can't remember which one of you guys said that Jill was your favorite Ghostface. Did I get that
Mike?
wrong? Mike. There you go. So listen, not a fan. That's okay. She's my least favorite Ghostface. Well, one of my least favorite Ghostface. But the thing that she did so brilliantly in that film, and what it was obviously more than just her performance. It was the scope of the film and the writing and everything. Was we thought she was the final girl. We thought going into the film for the first time
100%.
that this was a passing of the mantle from Sydney to Jill. And then shifted expectations at the end, as Scream want to do normally. At the end, we got the reveal that she was the Ghostface. And that, for me, felt like it was a new thing that I don't think had been done, at least not been done to that scope and done on that scale before. And as a horror fan, I just love watching that transformation happen. As a kid, I was a horror fan like you guys. Growing up watching horror, listen, we all love Sally Hardesty, right? But Sally Hardesty just outran Leatherface. She didn't really outsmart him, let's be honest, right?
Yep.
So the evolution of the final girl has also evolved in how she gets away at the end. It's not just hurry up and outrun him. Now she's got to outsmart him. Now she's got to outfight him in a lot of films. Yep. So I just felt like it's a beautiful thing to see as a female horror fan, and thinking about young female horror fans coming up and watching these films and just kind of seeing it from a completely new perspective that we didn't get when I was.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. That's what I like about this genre.
Yeah.
Like I've heard, like Barbara Crampton speak in interviews in the past where, like, early on in horror, it wasn't the best for women, but it did give women like breakout roles to be final girls, like a Laurie Strode or, Ellen Ripley, and it's gotten better over time, not just gratuitous nudity or just just to have it in there. So I do like that the horror genre has been very progressive with women and their characters.
Yeah.
I mean, I got Pearl on right now. She's one of my favorites.
I was going to say Pearl, or that trilogy is a great example of like even like towing the line between, like Maxine, right? Like, is she good? Is she bad? Is she in between? Like, that's a really good point that you make. I think that trilogy does a great job of showing the different sides of portrayed by the same person of different characters, but also how similar or how thin the line is between being the good and the evil, I think.
Yeah, that's an excellent point because that's exactly it, especially with that specific trilogy, because there is a fine line, right? You have the character of Maxine that when we see her story, her arc in X, she's the final girl. Technically, yeah, she's the final girl in Maxine. But her character evolves in Maxine.
For sure.
Right? It's not necessarily, she's not all good, right? She's kind of digging to the darker parts of herself in that film. And then if we go back to Pearl, yeah, it's a different character, but we see the evolution of Pearl in a completely different way. We see Pearl and, her particular brand of crazy when she's young. And how does that affect her particular brand of crazy when she's elderly? Her crazy has evolved. I'm a fan. I enjoy the evolution of that kind of crazy. So there's a film that I love to talk about when it comes to women in horror in general, and that's Jennifer's Body.
Yes.
Because, as we know, when the film came out, it wasn't necessarily super successful because of the marketing, because of, we could talk till we're blue in the face about why it wasn't successful, but it has since, gained cult following and whatnot. And that film in particular, I think it appeals to men and women, obviously for very different reasons. But in some cases, maybe the same reason. But that empowerment, right? And I know it sounds like a trite expression, right? Female empowerment. But it's the empowerment of the queer storyline. You have that. And then you have the empowerment of, you have the villain in the movie is a female. The heroine in the movie, our final girl, is a female. Very few movies do that. And the way it was done also was done in such a strategic way. That's one of the things I love about Diablo Cody's writing is she did it in a way that grasped the audience that wouldn't normally watch a movie like that. And I know, listen, we all love Megan Fox's talents. Pretty lady, we like her a lot.
She's attractive.
She's a pretty lady. Say that. She doesn't get enough credit for being a really good actor. Like, she's done some.
She was good in that movie.
Yeah, she's great in Jennifer's Body. Yeah,
she's done some stuff that I'm like, why are we not talking about her performance in this?
Yeah,
and like I said, she has done some stinkers. Everybody has.
Everybody has those.
We're not going to hold it against. Sometimes the stinkers are the best ones, right?
Yeah,
but that's 100%. What's so great about that movie. Like, I feel like you guys might, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you all went into that movie for one thing. Like, what drew you to that movie was probably Megan Fox, right? Like, listen, girl on girl, awesome.
I actually didn't see that movie, Nancy, until we reviewed it on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah, I had not seen it. The only thing I had seen Megan Fox in, honestly, before that movie was the episode of 2.5 Men.
Oh, really?
That's the only thing I had seen her in.
Oh, well, man.
I hadn't seen any of the Transformers movies, nothing.
Oh, okay.
But like I really enjoyed that movie just because it's the comedy, the way it was set up, and I knew Amanda Seyfried from Mean Girls, but I mean this movie has a female director, female writer, Diablo Cody. She's a producer on a new movie that just came out. I saw it last night, Forbidden Fruits. I don't know if you should go see that, Nancy. It's funny as hell. It was great. It was
I
great.
haven't seen it yet, but
it was great.
It's definitely on my list. It looks good, and again, Diablo Cody, I just love her writing style, and that's the other thing. Like, I'm glad you brought that up because when we think about women in horror, more often than not, we think of in front of the camera, right?
Yep.
We think of our final girls, we think of the actors, but there are plenty of women behind the scenes, directors,
Absolutely.
cinematographers, composers.
Oh yeah.
Costume designers, and that's what we're doing on the Cult of Horror HQ right now is celebrating a different woman who's had an impact in the genre, in her craft, in the genre. Every single day we're celebrating a different woman. And we've, so far the month's almost up, but so far we've been able to celebrate women in every almost every aspect of just film craft. Right. And I think that's something that people take for granted because they think, oh, final girl. They think the person that we're seeing on screen, but they don't think about the women behind the scenes that also contribute to putting it together. Heather Langenkamp, with her husband, started a special effects company.
Absolutely.
Their work, and
part of that.
It was really cool to get to tell Heather in our interview, their work on Cabin in the Woods is outstanding. I freaking love what they do in that movie. And so to get her to tell, I think she fully expected Nightmare on Elm Street, blah, blah, blah. But to throw some of the other stuff in, I could tell she was genuinely excited to talk about something that wasn't Freddy Krueger related. And so that was really, I said that was a really cool moment. So you bring her up. She's huge behind the camera. Huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's obviously, for me, I may be a little biased because, we
Nancy.
share a name.
Yeah.
But she is my favorite final girl, always has been. But when I saw that movie, probably at an age that I should not have been watching horror movies, I think the thing, besides the fact that there's a lot of things about that film that kind of I connected with, the thing that struck me the most when I was a kid watching that film was watching a final girl outsmart the bad guy.
100%.
Up until that point, what had we seen? We've seen a lot of final girls running as fast as they can away from them, and she decided to, I know when people say that Freddy Krueger got Kevin McAllister. No, the
she was before Kevin McAllister.
Yeah, I'm like, no. From now on, anytime anyone refers to Kevin McAllister in that context, I'm like, no, they got Nancy Thompson.
That's right.
That's right.
She was first.
Exactly. But that goes to what I was saying about how, final girls in the past have primarily been kind of, I don't want to say one-dimensional, but the characters weren't as full as we see now. We see a lot of, depth to
Absolutely.
The characters that are in horror. Influencers is a really great example.
Yeah.
Like, Influencers is made up mostly of women in that cast. And it's one of those things like, it's not technically horror, it's horror adjacent, but it's still...
Those movies are fun, though.
They're super fun. Like, and if it's one of those films, to me, it feels like if you're an influencer, you'll enjoy it. If you can't stand influencers, you'll enjoy it. If you're influencer adjacent, you'll enjoy it. It's a great flick. Both of them. Did you guys see both of them?
Mm-hmm.
I have not, but I will.
I don't know how she survived it, to be honest with you, getting stuck on the island. But hey, we'll just roll with it. Plot armor, baby.
Listen, we got to suspend disbelief. We're living in a land of many, many Jason returns. So I feel
exactly. Agree.
Yeah, come on.
Let it go. Pretend that never happened. So I wanted to ask you guys. Sorry, no, go.
Oh no, I think I think we talked about it on our re-review of Nightmare on Elm Street, the original, because we did realize the first 7 episodes were kind of bad. So a few years ago when we re-reviewed those original movies, I think we dove pretty good into just how she really was the first smart final girl. The first, like, I'm not taking any of your shit final girl that I can, if you line it up and you go Laurie Strode and Black Christmas is slipping me,
Maybe
so I
Ellen
apologize. Yeah, but I mean, like, in the slasher genre itself, like, Nancy is kind of the first badass, in all
Yeah,
honesty.
yeah. And Nico, to your point about Ellen Ripley, I think now we look at Ellen Ripley as a final girl, but at the
Yeah,
time,
sure.
there
Yeah.
was a definitive, split between. There was not like, well, sci-fi is part of horror. Now we look at it kind of that way. Back then, it was
Yeah.
horror is its own thing, sci-fi is its own thing.
That's true.
So, I think that's just really kind of an evolution of what's happened, how the audience views horror in general, and how horror is finally getting respect,
Thankfully.
Finally.
in ways that I don't think that we, personally anyway, I don't think I saw this happening for a lot longer. Like, I thought it was going to be many more years before we saw what we saw this Oscar season, this
Yeah.
award season,
For sure.
and it's an amazing thing to see because it's finally getting what we've all known all this time, the respect that it deserves.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like part of that, there's women that are involved. The projects that got all the, most of the accolades in horror had so many women as part of it. As part of Frankenstein, we had, Kate Hawley, who was the costume designer who won the Oscar for costume design
Awesome.
in that film. Like, the costumes in that film are their own characters.
Yep.
It's just, wow, and she didn't phone that in even a little bit.
No.
And I saw a documentary or, a behind the scenes featurette or something where Guillermo del Toro said that what he was trying to accomplish with that film, one of the things he wanted to do was he wanted to challenge the limitations of every stagecraft, every film craft, every part of making a film. And he did that. And part of that was bringing on women that, are the best in their field. Same thing with Sinners. Cinematographer in Sinners was a female cinematographer. So few of them, and those are the things that, like, I feel like we're seeing more of that, and it's so important. But I think one of the things I love about your show in particular, we have so many podcasts. Listen, everybody's got a podcast, right? And there's a lot of horror podcasts.
Oh, yeah.
But there are so few that, and I listen to a lot of them as a horror fan. There are so few that are primarily made up of men that appreciate the female contribution to horror. And you guys do that very well.
Thank you for not taking Dustin seriously.
Yeah, I know. It's all a bit. It's a bit.
Listen, he's Dustin. We still
Yeah.
love you, Dustin. But he's Dustin. Listen, he's always going to be Dustin. I think she's hot. I'm just waiting for that comment. I'm listening to an episode. Yeah, but again, I think I'm not being facetious. I really truly think that it comes from a place of respect and love. It's not,
100%.
you guys don't, there's a lot of people that are, critics and reviewers and podcast hosts and whatnot, that they acknowledge the necessity of women in horror, but I don't think they appreciate and respect the necessity. But you guys do. And I can speak from personal knowledge as far as I know a couple of you guys pretty well. So I can tell you that I know it's genuine. It's not performative. So I appreciate that.
And we're trying to, in the beginning, I've always told the guys I want to avoid the teenage boy humor, which is very easy to get into with watching slashers.
Sure.
When you're a kid, you watch a slasher, boobies. We try to avoid that talk as much as possible. But we are really trying to get more appreciative of the behind the scenes, like you mentioned. I DM'd. I know you know who I'm going to talk about. V Neal, costume designer. Yep. I've tried to Instagram DM her to get her to come on the show just because she has such a resume, but she's probably too big for us at this point.
So I will. I'm glad you mentioned her. So our channel, the Cult of Horror HQ, it actually started as a face-off account, the Instagram account for the TV show Face Off, which V Neal was a judge, and she was also an executive producer. That show was canceled many years ago. And the account has been kind of just almost dormant, not quite dormant, but a friend of mine said, listen, I think this is something that you should probably take over because you've got your Cult of Horror HQ that you're working on. I'm building this horror appreciation brand, I guess, for lack of a better word. But that's one of the things that we do over there is we celebrate the artists behind what the audience sees. The audience sees the final product, but they don't necessarily, not always, they don't always see what goes into putting that together. And that's one of the things we're doing over there is we're celebrating all the artists, not just special effects makeup artists. We're
Right.
celebrating every single artist behind the scene and also the fans. Because
Right.
at the end of the day, you can do all of these movies and you do it sometimes just for the love of it. Sometimes you do it for the recognition and the money. But if the fans are not receptive to it, there's only so much you're
Right.
going to be able to do it before you got to hang it up, right? So
Right.
we want to celebrate the fans. That's what we do at the conventions. That's what the conventions are there for. They're there for the fans to experience the celebration within their own community. I personally, I'll attend fan conventions and it turns into this just kind of, I feel like I'm home.
Right.
I'm amongst my people, right?
Sure.
Because, you guys are very lucky. You guys have each other, that you're all horror fans and you're all friends,
Yeah.
right? Not everybody has that. I'm alone on an island with my friend group. Most of them can't stand horror movies.
Right.
So it's like pulling teeth to try to come, to get someone to come with me to see a horror movie. But that's where I get that is at the fan conventions and then, on social media, that the communities that are built for horror or it's a whole different community than any other genre. I always say it. You don't see conventions for action movies. There's not a convention for comedies, but there's conventions for horror films specifically.
Correct.
It's a separate thing. It's kind of its own world, but I do love that it's starting to get the respect and recognition on a mainstream basis. I know some people aren't happy with that because, they're gatekeepers. But listen, let's not gatekeep. The more people that love horror, like I
Correct.
love the horror renaissance that we're getting right now. I'm obsessed with it. Like, give me
Same.
more. If that means we're going to get more crappy movies, that's okay too. Like,
I love a good crappy
not
one
everything
though.
has to be. Yeah, listen, who doesn't love a good crappy movie?
Yeah.
And just because we think it's crappy doesn't mean it is, though.
Exactly.
You're correct.
Exactly.
Correct.
The movie's for everybody. Like it's not for everybody, but it's for somebody.
Right, exactly. I'm going to steal that.
Yeah, go ahead. That's
Did
fine.
you steal it?
No,
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not like double.
no, you're good.
Hey, we had someone on this show. Hey, someone on this show gave Rubber a 10 out of 10. So there's something for everybody in the genre.
Listen, I tried. I really did. My daughter loves weird, bizarre movies. So every once in a while, she's like, "Mom, please watch this with me. She needs to watch me experience it." And I got 10 minutes in and I was like, I love you. I gave you life. That's the last favor I'm doing for you.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that again.
Oof.
But listen, I appreciate the work that went into it.
Right.
Yes.
Like,
Absolutely.
there's and I'm not like, I'm an actor as well, so there's been projects that I've been a part of as an actor that I'm like, I don't know anybody I was in that. Let's just pretend that didn't happen. But I still had a fun experience on set. I made a lot of friends. I connected with people that now we just kind of hang out just to, just hang out. Doesn't like outside of filming. So yeah. But going back to women in horror. The other thing that I think doesn't get a lot of attention is older women in horror, right?
Yes.
I mean, older women in the entertainment industry in general.
100%.
Right?
That's the substance.
But
Yeah.
One of the
And-
biggest points of that movie.
and clearly it resonated with so many people.
Mm-hmm.
So much so that we've got the beauty now that feels oddly similar
and it's got Ashton Kutcher in it.
There feels like there's a deliberate
Connections.
Listen, I don't know. Who knows? Maybe the beauty was made first. I don't know, but it feels not accidental to me.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
But women in horror usually tend to be of a certain generation, of a certain age. So having the Scream 7 talk, right? It's now officially the highest grossing film in the entire franchise, which boggles my mind.
Right.
But that speaks a lot to what the audience wanted. I personally think it's a combination of having Matthew Lillard and Neve Campbell back.
Yeah.
Like, personally, that's why I went. I mean, I'll always see a Scream movie. I don't care. Like,
Yeah, me too.
I don't care what it is. I will go see a Scream movie. But the thing that made me excited for it was having Matthew Lillard back. I'm obsessed with Matthew Lillard. But Neve Campbell was the key, because Neve Campbell is and always has been the heart of that franchise. And when they did try to, give it to a new generation, and they brought the core four in and all of that, I still enjoyed that storyline.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
having Neve Campbell absent from 6 felt like a slight against humanity. That just did not feel right.
I get that. Yep.
And
Yeah.
there's a lot of talk, and I'm part of it, the conversation about what the hell was the message in Scream 7, right? Because every Scream film is a commentary on the state of the genre. And it's like, well, this one didn't say anything about that, right? But it felt like this one said, we need Sydney. It's not the same without Sydney. That's what it felt like the message was in this film to me.
It touched on other things too that are relevant now, like AI and like we talked about this too. Like you can you can Airbnb or rent the Lillard, the Mocker house or whatever, and they brought that around to burning down where your trauma began and all that. So it touched on other things too.
Yeah.
But I just like the relationship between Sydney and Tatum. That was my favorite.
Love
part.
it. Mm-hmm.
Personally, I felt like, it did touch on other subjects. With the AI, I that was my theory. A lot of fans had that same theory that that's what it was going to be, and that's how they were going to bring these seemingly dead characters back. But for me, it didn't land because there was no message about AI. It wasn't like, this is what AI could do to the industry. Like that to me was where it should have gone. If you're
just used it.
Right. It was just we're using this as a plot device. It felt like a MacGuffin. Like, here's AI just to have an excuse for bringing Matthew Lillard back, and then the rest of them for no reason whatsoever, because that was weird. But having AI just be a plot point and not really having much to say is what didn't land for me.
No, I get that for sure.
What did land for me was the message of Sydney is vital to this franchise. She's the heartbeat of the franchise. And obviously there's part of it has to do with the fact that she's been doing this franchise for 30 years, and she's been the face of the franchise for 30 years. But I think there's something to be said about the fact that she's so in demand for that franchise, and she is a woman of a certain age, that they wouldn't just cast her in the movie now for the first time, right? Same thing with Jamie Lee Curtis.
Courtney Cox as well.
Courtney Cox, for sure.
So we had the same thing with Jamie Lee Curtis when
Absolutely.
2018 Halloween. Like, that's what drew people, was like, oh, Jamie Lee's back, and we're going to undo all the crap that we didn't like the previous one. But Jamie Lee was the hook, right?
Sure.
Nobody was really going to be that excited about it if it was brand new character.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
I agree with that 1,000%. I agree, especially with Scream, because look, I like Scream 6. Objectively, I think, because, and we've talked about it every time we do Scream, and me and Nico have a big disagreement. The Ghostface reveal does not matter to me that much. Like, as long as it's Sydney and Ghostface and that's the film, then I agree with you. Having Neve Campbell there is such a big win for me, because she can do Scream movies as long as she wants to, and of course they pay her correctly. But as long as she's a central piece of that franchise, I will continue to watch. That's just 100% the way it is.
Yeah. And listen, nobody does it like Nev, right? She's
Right.
the only final girl that has survived every single film in the franchise.
Yeah.
There's something to be said about that. That's a big deal.
Yeah.
We're going to
I love
ignore
Nansanity,
Halloween
too.
Resurrection. Okay? Halloween Resurrection doesn't exist.
Listen, Halloween's made a lot of mistakes. Many
Yeah.
mistakes.
Yeah.
But ultimately, having these final girls at the age that they are, being
100%.
final girls, to me, it's such a huge deal. And I don't think people understand, or honestly, I don't think people maybe even recognize what a huge deal it is. I personally, until I started creeping up in years, I didn't recognize what a big deal something like that could be.
Well,
You know?
like you mentioned, look at Amy Madigan. She just won the Oscar for supporting actress in
Yep.
Weapons, and I don't know how old she is, but she's she's an older age, but
Right.
she was the best part of that movie. It's
Yeah.
like she was great. She was great
Yeah.
as Aunt Gladys. I loved her in that.
She was, oh God, she was like that perfect line of just creepy enough to, like, yeah, obviously her makeup and all, like, it was cartoonish almost, but it could have easily gone into caricature and it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the brilliance of her performance, which is why
Agree.
she's getting, so much recognition for her performance. But again, to your point, her age is the fact that that's what's getting the recognition, is a woman of that age is getting this recognition in this genre in particular.
Yep.
Usually those, women of that age, or, once a woman hits 40 in Hollywood, she's out to pasture, right? She's just playing mom characters, she's playing grandma, she's playing babysitters, she's, the neighbor, the nosy neighbor. She's not a lead, but we're seeing more and more of that, and particularly in this genre. For me, I find it much more interesting. I love slashers, but I would like to see more films that are less a bunch of teenagers getting, creative ways
Sure.
to kill off the teenage past.
Yeah.
Sure.
100%. I love a Final Destination movie, but give me some older characters that are fighting death. You know?
Yeah.
Because that franchise, I love it. I have to go on record. I love every film except for the one that we won't talk about. But one of the things that I always say about it is that it's just really a creative ways to kill your cast.
Sure.
Film, kind of similar to Saw, right?
Mhm.
I would love to see more, women kind of being featured in films like that. Women taking the mantle of a final girl, but past the age of what you would think of a final girl. It's built into the name, girl.
Yeah.
They're not girls; they're women, right?
Right.
Yep.
Let's have more women in these roles. Let's do that.
Yeah.
That's what I want to see as a fan. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there, men and women, and non-binary, every gender on the spectrum. Definitely, there are people that want to see that. And the more we see it, I think the more we will see it. Whether
Agreed.
it's slashers, prestige horror, whatever subgenre you want to talk about.
There's
No,
a
I
movie.
agree. And no, go ahead, Mike. Go ahead.
There's a movie that I wish was coming out in this era of horror, and I know that she was playing a older character on purpose because Nana and Pop Pop, but Deanna Dunnigan, right? Am I getting the name correct? From The Visit.
Yep.
Outstanding. She makes the movie. If it's not for her, I don't believe in the characters. Like, that's one that always comes to mind when I think about that, where I'm like, man, without her in this role, nailing that character the way it's supposed to be. I love The Visit, by the way. I think I've said that on record before, but I wish it was coming out now because I feel like she would get proper recognition for absolutely killing the role that she was in.
I agree. I think she would. I think also something about the horror genre it's for many, many years, it's always looked at as almost anti-woman, right? Like it's
Yeah.
demeaning to women, but I feel like it's kind of the opposite.
Yeah.
You have a movie like oh God, I'm blanking. Slumber Party Massacre. If I'm not mistaken, Slumber Party Massacre. Listen, that movie is corny, cheesy,
Yeah.
loads of fun.
Yeah.
You have you know, innuendo galore, it could easily be looked at as, oh, this is just a movie to exploit women, right? But to me, it comes off as much more empowering than that, because it's, yeah, the women are victims and all of that, but who who gets the bad guy in the end,
Right.
right? Not the men.
Yeah.
So for me, it feels much more empowering to watch a woman go through the struggle of whatever it is, whether it's, watching a group of her friends die, or whether she's starting from the beginning of the movie all the way to the end, and she's the only person, having to escape the killer or whatever. At the end of the day, she is carrying that entire story. And for me, that's very empowering to watch her go through that journey and then
For
watch her
sure.
succeed at the end. It's
Another, I don't want this come. You know where I'm coming from, Nancy. So I hope this doesn't come across wrong. But
Let's see.
another actress who's another older actress who I thought did a great job last year was Sally Hawkins and Bring Her Back. I don't know if you saw that movie or not,
Yes, yes.
but she was exceptional.
Oh, that movie was so disturbing.
Like horror does give a lot of women of all
Yeah.
ages chances to do really cool characters and really cool
Right.
scripts.
Yeah.
That's what Samara Weaving just said in an interview recently.
Yeah.
She said she told her, people that she doesn't really want to do genre films, but all the scripts she keeps getting are so good she can't say no to them.
Yeah.
Right.
And usually that's the genre that you're going to get the best scripts that have opportunities for an actor to stretch beyond what they would normally do in a genre, in a drama or a thriller. Some films do give you that opportunity, but not like horror. Horror
Right.
is, the best genre. Listen, objectively, I don't want anybody arguing with that.
And in this day and age too, it's like, the cinemas are struggling a little bit, but horror movies always are supported. And a lot of these videos, like on Instagram and TikTok, they blow up, so they get notoriety a lot faster too. So I think it works out a lot in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah,
Just
and
how marketing is now.
yeah, yeah, and that's the other thing too, because I think a lot of people look at horror. People who are not horror fans will look at horror through the lens of not liking horror. They make assumptions about it
Right.
because they're just not a fan. So they look at, oh, it's just gore. It's just, they kind of dismiss it. But if they actually just took a moment to watch, not just watch the film, but actually receive the film, because you could sit and watch it and just kind of twiddle your thumbs and you're not really paying attention. That's the problem we're having now with, like, Netflix, for example. Is, we know that Netflix is deliberately telling the audience what's happening in
Right.
an exposition dump, because most people are just
Yep.
looking at their phones instead of watching the movie. I don't know about you. I'm very guilty of that, but not when I'm watching a horror movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not if it's a new movie. Like if it's just background noise,
Yeah,
but if I'm
Yeah.
watching something, I want to lock into a new horror movie, if you miss 5 minutes, you can miss the whole plot.
yeah,
Or you can
Correct.
miss the big reveal. Like it ruined everything.
yeah, and that's the thing too. Horror movies have so much, like, connecting tissue throughout the story. You can watch another genre and it's, first act, second act, third act, you have the hero arc, it's kind of structured like a normal story would be. But when you're watching horror, like you said, you might miss something. There might be an Easter egg that's just planted there, some foreshadowing. There's all sorts of different things that are happening that I don't necessarily see in a lot of other genres.
No.
And like I said, when I'm watching a movie, even, I'm guilty of it. I will kind of get distracted and look at my phone. A horror movie does not make me feel like, it doesn't lose my attention.
Same.
Every horror movie.
Yeah.
Like, even if it's terrible, it's still got my attention. I may turn it off before it's over because it's so bad, but while I'm sitting in front of it, it's got my attention. And it's I think that's unique to the horror genre in that way.
I agree. I agree 100%.
And
That's why I was kind of worried about Frankenstein, because it was a Netflix movie, but it blew me away when I saw it in the theater. It
So
was
good.
exceptional.
So good.
That movie is exquisite.
Oh, it's awesome.
exquisite to me. And,
you-
and I know, sorry.
Oh, no, go.
Mike?
Yeah, you mentioned something like how the horror genre kind of like gives the ability to tell these very unique scripts and different stories. tying that into women. Like, there's not another genre that can, and sometimes I understand that it's unfortunate that you have to wrap up their story in a horror cloak, I guess, for a wrong term, maybe a bad term there, but like to present it to audiences. But you said how people receive the film. This opens up a lot of very women centric stories to a whole new audience of people. Like, and that's what I think of too. Like, as much as I, not for the story, but because I don't like the kid screaming for an hour. And that's the reason I don't like the Babadook, but I understand why people like the Babadook. Like I said it in the review, like I get it. It's not something that grabs my attention the full time, but right. But I completely understand why movies like it and others have the ability to tell very unique, even Halloween ends, especially just like layers upon layers of generations of how this affects from Laurie Strode all the way down. Like I just like how the genre has the ability to tell female centric stories through it. It's not, it may not be why I go into the movie, but it will be what I leave with after I'm done watching it. And I like that part.
I love that. And I think too, like, we have so many subgenres of horror. There's a subgenre that I think is kind of reclaiming a narrative that has been told about women for millennia, and that's the character of the witch, right? Like, I think that's when I was a teenager and The Craft came out, I was just like hooked from the gate, because to me it felt like this is a retelling, and it's fixing the narrative that the how mainstream likes to view women. And there's the phrase that we hear a lot now: they didn't burn witches, they burnt women, right? Reclaiming the narrative of what a witch is, whether it's The Craft or the 2015 film The Witch, which I know some people call the Vavitch, but it's recontextualizing the female villain. Yeah, I'm guilty of it.
I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
10 out of 10.
Great movie. Absolutely.
It feels like it's recontextualizing the female villain as a figure of like liberation and autonomy that we didn't see in films, many, many years past, right? It's an evolution of women in horror, what they represent, and like where it's going. So my question to you guys, I have a couple questions for you though. Do you guys have a favorite horror film that you would consider women centric? I know you said Babadook, like it's not your favorite, you don't really like it, but you get it. Is there a film that you do like?
I've already referenced it, and I know it's a trilogy, but Mia Goth's all that, everything in the X trilogy, I would consider, maybe not X female centric, although she ends up being the quote final girl, but Pearl, I just love Pearl. I think me and Nico had a tag team match against Brian and Dustin during the review because it was us versus them. But one of my favorite horror movies I've seen in a long time. I just love the character, and Maxine as well. I just love that trilogy. So I would have to probably say that. I know I can't just pick one, that's cheating, but I would have to say that trilogy and Mia Goth's work as an actor throughout that entire thing. I mean, it's one of my favorite things I've seen in the genre in a long time.
So let me ask you this. Why is it that particular movie, that particular trilogy, that particular performance? What is it about it that you gravitate as a man watching the film?
Sure.
Because I gravitate to it for different reasons, right?
Sure.
I can comment on that. I can comment on Pearl for sure.
Okay. Yeah, Pearl,
like during her monologue, she starts it off with like, life is terrifying, it's bleak and draining. Like any gender can relate to that. Any gender can relate to chasing your dream and not succeeding and it breaking your heart and you don't know what to do with your life. Like anybody can relate to that. And I just think Mia Goth does such a exceptional job at it. It's mine. Like I was blown away by it. But what I wanted to ask you is, what do you mean by female centric movie? Because, obviously there's a lot of horror movies out there with really strong female performances. Do you mean just like one that paints women in a good light, or
No,
uh,
no, no.
or
I mean,
because
like, sorry, finish your question before I answer it.
I just want to make sure that I answer correctly, because
Yeah.
like Mike just mentioned, I love the X trilogy, but Maxine's not necessarily a villain, but she's not necessarily a good person either.
Right.
That's
Like
why I like the character.
like you mentioned, you're skating on a line. Like Anya in The Witch, she's not
Yeah.
really a bad person either. It's like it's her dad, really.
Yeah.
Until the end, when she does, decide to want to live deliciously, which I get at that point. But like, I love Midsummer as well. Like everybody, I love good for her horror movies, but do you consider that female centric? Because like she gives herself to a cult. Is that really a good thing for her?
So when I say female centric, I don't necessarily mean that she's good or that she has a happy ending. I just mean that the female character is centered. The plot is surrounded based on the female, whatever the story is.
Okay, I got a lot of those. Like I love something silly like Bodies, Bodies, Bodies. I don't know if you've seen that or not.
Yeah.
That movie is hilarious. Like I love Rachel Sennon's character in that. She is so damn funny to me. But I just love like how a female director as well, Helena Rain. I like the way she wrote all the dialogue. Like it was super realistic. Like it felt like you were reading Instagram comments. Like it was cringy, but it was so well executed. I loved it.
Yeah, it was deliberately cringy. It was
correct.
Like
that's what people missed, I think.
On,
that's what people missed, I think.
Yeah.
I like something like, I'm sure a lot of people might think this movie's boring, but even something like Saint Maud like was really good.
Yeah, that's a great movie. It's not my cup of tea, but it's exactly what I was talking about. Like it's centered around the female character. The plot is, based on the character itself. It doesn't matter how it ends. It doesn't matter whether she's considered good or bad or whatever. And I personally think that's subjective to your point about the witch, right? Like by the time we get to the end, I mean, I guess you could say she's bad, but there's a whole lot of like, is she though?
But it's like you just mentioned though. It's like they weren't burning witches; they were burning women. What did Anya do wrong?
Exactly.
She found comfort with other women who went through the same thing she did.
Exactly that. And it speaks so much to just kind of the female experience. It's not an outdated trope. It's something that females are still experiencing, and that's what I think is so important about telling female stories and having women be part of the process of telling that story. So many times in the past, there were so few female writers in the horror genre, in any genre, but in the horror genre in particular, that you have female-centric stories written by men.
Yeah.
Which, listen, there's some great stories out there that were written by men, but it's a completely different perspective when a woman is writing it from her perspective. That's like me talking about what it's like to be a man. I don't know. I can have my ideas on it, but that's just based on my observation. It's not based on personal lived experience.
Exactly.
So that's why I think it's
100%.
important to. That's why representation matters, right? It's not just one story for one type of person. There's so many types of people out there. We need to have representation for the type of people that exist in our society. And going back to what I mentioned earlier, watching a horror movie as a kid, watching any movie as a kid, like I didn't have a lot of female role models to look up to in pop culture. And I had some great ones, but there weren't a lot of them. I had Princess Leia and Wonder Woman for a really long time.
Yeah.
But even Princess Leia was sexualized, right? So that's where it's important to get the female perspective from a writing standpoint, because a lot of times when you do have a female character written by a man, it kind of tends to lean into the sexualization of the character, which that's not necessarily a bad thing, because listen, women are humans too.
Let me comment on that real quick, because I just saw a post today. I'm going back to Forbidden Fruits, and since you like The Craft, do you like Mean Girls?
The original.
Yeah. Sure. Regina George and all
sure.
that. Yeah. And if you like influencers, I think you'll love Forbidden Fruits. But Victoria Pedretti had a comment on that. She has a topless scene in it, but she spoke on the nudity, and she said that it felt very, I can't remember the exact quote, so just forgive me, but she said it was empowering to have a nude scene that didn't involve a man or sex, and it was just another woman in the scene. So
Yeah.
I get where you're coming from.
For sure.
Yeah. And that's kind of rampant. It's one of those things that's improving. It's rampant in the sense that, I mean, we have the whole thing about like how many times do we see a woman on screen they're not talking about a man. A man's not in the room. All that kind of stuff happens all the time. But that scene obviously is something that women actually experience in life. We're not all like, you think we only take our clothes off because a man's in the room? Come on now. You know? So it does. I can understand her point of view when she says that it is empowering, because it's something, especially since it's something that happens so infrequently. When it does happen, it's notable. And my hope is that we get to a point with films, specifically in the horror genre, that it's not as rare. It's something that's kind of just, it's just like having a slasher and a killer in the movie. You're gonna have it, and nobody blinks an eye because it's normal. It's something that we've seen so many times it doesn't have an impact. That's why I brought up Jennifer's Body, because I feel like, yeah, obviously it's a hypersexual movie. There's a lot of sexualization in the movie. Kind of the point of the plot, so it's not done in a gratuitous, just trying to get the teenage boys to watch the movie kind of way.
Correct.
But the way it was marketed was to get the teenage boys to watch the movie, which is part of the reason why it failed, right?
I watched that interview between Megan and I think it was, I can't remember if it was Diablo Cody or Karen Kasama. It was either the writer or the director, but that's what they were talking about, like the marketing, and that's why it didn't do well, like critics wise, because it was just mismarketed. But it's grown, like you mentioned. It's got that cult following now, and
looks like it may get a sequel. It looks like it may get a sequel.
Yeah.
Okay.
It looks like is it in development?
I think so. Early
we'll see.
development.
Like, I don't know.
I hope.
I saw where Diablo Cody's writing the story, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. Listen, I'll take her table scraps. I don't care what it is. Whatever you want.
Absolutely.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about, and this might make you guys a little uncomfortable, is I'm going to give you an example before I just dive right in. Carrie. So we see Carrie. I'm talking about the original Sissy Spacek Carrie now.
Sure.
We see.
Carrie. I thought you said Harry.
No,
okay, Carrie. Okay.
Carrie. Sissy Spacek. So we see, the first time we're introduced to that character in the film, she's taking a shower and she starts menstruating, and that's how, we discover she's getting her powers because of this change in her body, and she's growing and all this stuff. That's one of those things that obviously the movie, looks at it from the perspective of the writer and the director, who are both men.
Sure.
Right? So it's looked at, the girls in the film never struck me as authentic. The girls bullying her because she got her period never struck me as authentic.
Yeah.
Because no girl on the planet would do that.
Right.
Even if they're bullies, they wouldn't do that. Like,
correct.
That's not a thing.
That doesn't feel real. Yeah.
Right. It didn't feel authentic at all. But, I mean, look, I could be wrong. Maybe there are some people out there that would do that. I don't know. But in my experience, I don't think that's something that, at least not to that extreme. But again, it comes from, that's the male perspective of how girls would act in this situation. And of course, it's heightened because, you want to pick up the stakes for drama and whatnot. But when we're talking about a woman's body, and we're talking about all the miscellaneous things that happen with a woman's body, whether it's menstruation or pregnancy or, anywhere else, it's something that is kind of looked at as icky, I guess.
Sure.
Ew, everybody's kind of ew about it, mostly guys. But it's part of our lived experience. It's something that women go through. It's something that should be normalized. It's something that we should see on screen, not from a male perspective, but we should see, tie it into the experience of the character, but don't do it in a way that kind of, it felt exploitative to me.
Yeah, I think that's totally fair.
I never really thought about it that way, but that's a good point.
And
yeah,
you wouldn't,
same.
Right?
Same.
You wouldn't.
That's
There's
a good
no reason
point.
why you would. If there's a movie about, I'm trying to not freak your audience out. if there's a movie that involves a teenage boy experiencing something that all teenage boys experience when they wake up in the morning, let's just say,
Right.
If a woman is writing that story, she's going to write it from a female perspective of what she's seen, right? Maybe
Yeah.
she has a teenage son or something like that. But, and, you know, yeah, women can typically be more empathetic, but it is just coming from a place of, I think this is what it would feel like. I think this is what he feels, right? So
Right.
it's never going to be as authentic as someone who writes it from their own personal perspective, which is part of why I think it's so important to have female stories told by the
Sure.
female writers.
Yep.
You know?
And I think
And-
I think it's, to your point, I think a lot of the male directors nowadays are listening to their actresses a lot more, because I'll send it to you, but I've listened to an interview that Ari Aster did whenever the Midsommar director's cut released, and someone in the audience actually asked him that. He said, they said, I love both of your movies, but you're writing these stories about two different women. Like, how do you relate to these people when you're not a woman? He answered, obviously, like, he listened to them, but he said he sees a lot of himself in these characters too, with trauma and grief and all that. But he was very open about, yes, I am a man. I don't have your experience, but I listen to Tony. I listen to Florence. I take their input and their feedback. So I think we are getting better about that as well too. And you're not just you do what I say in the script. So I can appreciate that as well too.
Yeah, and that makes me so.
I mean, speaking of Toni Collette and Florence Pugh, I mean, they gave two of the best performances in the past 10 years in a horror movie.
Incredible.
Or any
what
movie,
I
really.
wouldn't give for a horror film with both of them.
Oh yeah, let's go.
Chef's kiss. I like
Let's do it.
immediately will run, take my money. But yeah, like, listen, everybody experiences a lot of the same things. We've all experienced trauma. We've all experienced heartbreak, right? We've all experienced, or if we haven't, we will experience the death of a loved one. There's universal experiences, but there's something to be said about that experience from your personal perspective as a woman, as a man, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's a lot of idiosyncrasies that go into how human beings respond to different experiences, and sometimes they are very specific to your gender, whether that's inherent to your gender or that's societal indoctrination or whatever. That's a conversation for a different time. But I think it is a beautiful thing when you have a director like Ari Aster listening, like, not just listening. I think he's hearing it.
Mm-hmm.
He's not just sitting there letting them talk and like, okay, fine. He's hearing the feedback. He's listening to it. He's consuming it. He's receiving it, and he's incorporating the feedback into the story. You could tell that those stories are done with a lot of thought and care.
Oh yeah.
And that's a really important thing to happen on film.
I think Toni Collette getting snubbed and not even nominated is kind of what brought more eyes to the genre as well. Because it's like, who cares if it's a horror movie? She acted her butt off. Like, she was incredible.
There are so many performances like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're like, how you just ignored this person because it was a horror film.
Yeah.
And look, Sinners, fantastic film. Like, again, it's for me, those Frankenstein and Sinners were my favorite films of that year.
Horror or all in general?
In general.
I love Train Dreams as well. I don't know if you saw that or not.
I did not see that.
Whew.
Unfortunate. Oh,
And The Life of Chuck. The Life of Chuck was great too.
Oh my God, The Life of Chuck. Don't even get me started. That made me cry. Listen, I'll watch anything that Mike Flanagan does. I don't
Me
care.
too.
He could literally put someone reading the entire internet on.
He can make
screen
Rubber,
and
and I'll give it a chance.
Yeah, he can make a sequel to Rubber, and I will be there. Yeah, Mike Flanagan. I always say Mike Flanagan is the master of Stephen King adaptations, or adaptations in general. Like, and knock it out of the park every single time. But the two films that got a lot of the accolades in awards season, two horror films, they can be considered by people who are not horror fans. They will look at those films as non-horror films.
Right.
There's a lot of people that will look at Frankenstein as a drama. a
Yeah.
gothic drama. It's not necessarily, no, it's not, it doesn't have jump scares, but horror is broad. It doesn't have to
Very.
have the scary component. There's so much. Megan is not scary.
No.
A little creepy factor when she's running in the forest, but it's considered horror comedy, right? Like the genre is probably the most broad genre where you can have so many mix and match other genres. You can have a horror comedy, you can have a horror thriller, you can have a horror sci-fi, and I think that those two movies winning so many awards is a door opening
I
to
hope.
some of the quote unquote lesser films. I don't even want to use that term because I don't look at them as lesser.
Sure.
But unfortunately, the Academy and the people, the powers that be, do. But to me, it feels like there is a world now that it feels like a Scream movie can be nominated. It's not Seven, but it maybe down the road there
Yeah.
might be a slasher film that will
Yeah.
get accolades. It feels more possible now.
I mean, look at The
For
Ugly
sure.
Stepsister. It got nominated for an Oscar.
It
Exactly.
It's an
should have.
independent, low budget
Yeah.
horror movie from, I can't even remember what country it's from. I apologize. I saw it in theaters the exact same night I saw Sinners. I saw them back to back.
Did
Talk
you?
about two different movies, but whew.
That's a lot on a.
But like
that's
just
a
the
lot
fact
on
that
your plate,
that movie
bud.
got nominated was incredible.
That was a double feature for you.
Yeah, buddy.
I'm so Ugly Stepsister. That's one of those movies that I feel like not a lot of people would see, but getting the recognition in the awards department is what got a lot of people to go, oh, I'm gonna go check this out now. And I
Mhm.
think
Yeah.
that's one of the positives. There's a lot to be said about awards being a popularity contest and it's nonsense and all that. And yeah, to some degree that is true. But I think the positive, and I'm just kind of almost an eternal optimist, ironically, I feel like I try to look at the positives of any situation. And for me, it feels like the positive of that, of a film like that getting the recognition that it did, or any horror film getting recognition, is going to bring people that are not necessarily going to see that movie in to watch it. It might
Right.
intrigue them. Oh, you know what? I do that. If there's a movie that I've never seen but I saw it's getting a lot of attention in awards season, I'm like, oh, you know what? Maybe I'll check it out. And sometimes I'm like, oh, this is very deserving of all the recognition.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's like, what are people thinking? But that's the beauty of film, is
Yeah.
there's something for everybody, right?
And this isn't the litmus test for everything, but I'm just looking at IMDb. Sinners got 446,627 rating reviews. The Ugly Stepsister got 42,000. So a lot of, obviously a lot more people saw Sinners, but just the fact that it got nominated for, I think it was best makeup or best costumes, I can't remember.
Well,
I was so happy for The Ugly Stepsister just because that's such a low budget, small, independent horror movie, female directed,
Mhm.
which is also great. And I thought Leah Myron as the lead, Elvira, in that movie, she was great. Like, she was asked to do a lot.
You know what I think about that movie? When the trailer first came out, I heard a lot of kind of negativity about it, like, oh God, another one of these, the
Cinderella movies.
not just
Yeah.
Cinderella, but how they're
Like Brothers
Winnie
Grimm.
the Poohs
Yeah.
and whatever, the Nightmare Childhood. What do they call it? I should know this. Whatever, you know what I'm talking about.
right. The
Taking
Pooniverse.
childhood
Oh.
stories.
Open domain kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it felt like there was a lot of that commentary where it's like, oh God, another one of these. So I think it was, in the beginning anyway, it was dismissed kind of outright.
Sure.
But it got legs, right? People were paying attention to it. And it's not just the Cinderella story, right? It's not
No.
the Cinderella story at all, actually.
Correct.
Yeah.
It's telling a different story in the Cinderella setting,
Mhm.
which to me is far more interesting. I don't
Mhm.
care about Cinderella's story. I know the story. I've seen it 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. Tell me a new story. You can set it under the same roof, but
Yeah.
give me a different sample of what's under that roof. And that's an awesome road to go down when you have a film. I think it was a Scandinavian film, right, Nico?
I think that's right. I think so.
that's
Yes.
correct.
I think so.
Yes.
So I think that's also a big deal, because there's a lot of people that will just kind of dismiss a film simply because it wasn't a U.S. film. but there's
Right.
Yeah, because people don't want to read dialogue, or they don't want to
they
read
don't
the
want to read the
subtitles.
subtitles. Yeah.
Mike,
As long as you know, I'm just giving you crap.
it's Polish. It was in Poland.
Just giving you crap.
Who, Mike? You don't like to read subtitles?
I do. I just like making Nico feel bad about always picking those.
We reviewed the coffee table tonight. He didn't like
Yeah.
having to read the subtitles.
I was.
So,
Yes, I
I will
did.
tell you.
It's a good movie.
I don't like reading Okay, that's not true. I have subtitles on all the time, no matter what I'm watching.
Same.
I grew up with a deaf mom, and she always had the subtitles on growing up, and I just got used to it. And a lot of times I'm like, what did they say? The sound
Same.
design is garbage, so right? But if it's a film that's not in English, I struggle because I wanna have the subtitles there as a crutch if I need them. I don't want to have
Sure.
to read the entire subtitle to watch the film, and that's why I kind of like resist it because I feel like I'm going to miss something if I'm reading and I'm not watching what's going, especially what we talked about before about all the different things that happen in a horror film. I don't want to miss an Easter egg or something that's foreshadowed or, a shadow in the background. That's one of my favorite things to do with a Mike Flanagan film, especially or not even a film, the limited series, Haunting of Hill House. One of my favorite things to do is just watch what's going on in the background because there's so many
same.
things you can see, right? Can't do that when you have to read the subtitles. So
Yeah.
sometimes I'll put on the dubbing. But personally, more often than not, in my experience, the dubbing is not up to par. It feels like some of the acting is not great. Or
Yeah,
the
I
acting
agree.
doesn't
It takes me
match.
out of it.
It does. It takes me out of it. I'm like, yeah. So there are times that I'm like, crap, I don't want to miss what looks like a really great movie because I'm being stubborn about subtitles and dubbing. So I'll
Yeah,
force myself to do it. It'll take me 3 times as long because I'm constantly pausing, rewinding. What did I miss? What did I miss because I was reading? But the beauty of it is, again, it's out there for people to see. And a lot of people will dismiss it for that reason. They'll dismiss it because it's a foreign film. They'll dismiss it because they look at it and immediately just write it off as, oh God, it's another one of these, nightmare from your childhood type films. It's just part of the same universe as, Popeye and whatever the hell else they're making. Those movies are great too. They're not great in the quality. They're great in the fact that, listen, do you know how hard it is to get a film made?
yep.
Any film made?
Mm-hmm.
Like, good for you. You did it. And if you're going to tell a female story from a female perspective and throw in female artists that are working on it, I'm there all day, every day.
Absolutely.
And it's like you said, it is getting better. It is getting better, and I'm loving this journey that horror is going on. I'm loving watching people discover. I have seen, and maybe you guys have seen this. Maybe some of your listeners have been chiming in. It feels like we're getting a lot more new fans coming to the genre.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like every day, it just feels like I never paid attention to horror, and my friend turned me on to this one podcast, or I saw a trailer and I just figured maybe I'll watch it, and that was their entryway to horror. That's why I don't poo-poo movies like Clown in the Cornfield.
I liked Clown in the Cornfield. It was fun
It's
for what
a
it was.
yeah, it's a fun little movie, but that's a very good gateway movie for people who don't like horror.
Yeah.
That feels like it's a good gateway movie,
I think more people are getting into it because, you get something like a Sinners that has such big names like Michael B. Jordan, Haley Steinfeld, and heck, even Forbidden Fruits. I'm going to bring it up again. Lily Reinhart. She's got 24.5 million Instagram followers. I mean, I'm sure they're not all. I don't even know who Lily Reinhart is. No disrespect. I just don't know who she is. But I'm sure all of her fans or followers aren't horror movie fans, but they might be now because they want to go see her movie.
Yeah.
Then they'll get to see how great Victoria Pedretti is. Hey, let's look her up. Now let's go watch Hill House. Let's go watch You.
Exactly. I'm like that as a fan. If I see an actor that I like, I'll go and watch their entire filmography. And if that's how people get introduced to it, great. That's awesome. Samara Weaving has become a modern day scream queen, objectively, in my opinion. I know I said 2 contradicting words there, but I think she has the best scream in horror.
Yeah, her or Mia Goth, they're both really good.
Her Banshee scream, I'll listen to it all day long. She's amazing.
And the fact she can just do it on a whim too. Like just say, "Can you do it?" and she'll do it.
Yeah.
It's
And
really
she
impressive.
said that she didn't even know that she could do that. The first time she ever had to scream on film, they were like, just scream. She's like, I don't think I can. And she did. And that's what came out. And now it's kind of almost a trademark for her. It's amazing. I love it.
No,
Um,
I'm right there with you. I love it. I think it's incredible. I mean, it's not. I mean, you can't just. I mean, you can't just tell a comedian, "Hey, just hey, tell a joke."
right.
I mean, it's not. I mean, your mind will just go blank. But just the fact she can just turn it on is incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And she's one of those actors that she's just so compelling to watch in everything she does. Like every scene, every moment, she's so compelling to watch. And she brings she brings things to the characters that she plays that I find it difficult to think of another actor that can do that the way she does it. It's just
Have you
she's
seen Ready or Not 2 yet?
not yet. Not yet.
She's a great actress. Don't get me wrong, but she really shines in this movie to me. Like, I'm not going to spoil anything, but obviously she's getting hunted the whole movie, so she gets hurt. Like the scenes where she has to like show her pain on her face is the best part. That's her
Hmm.
best acting in the
When
movie.
she had that scene in the first one where she had the nail through the hand, that
Yeah,
whole scene, I'm on the edge of my seat watching her do this. Like she sells it. And that's the thing that what we were saying about, horror film performances. There are some performances. Listen, most of these people are not acting scared in front of an actual threat, right? They're acting scared because they're performing. They have to pretend to be scared. But there are so many performances from different women in the genre that sell it so believably that it stays with you,
oh
you
yeah,
know. And you had meant was it you that had mentioned that you liked in Scream 7, you liked Sydney and Tatum's
yeah. I like their
relationship, or was
relationship.
it Mike? Yeah. So that was another thing when watching that film. And I will say I it's not my favorite Scream film. Up until that film, 3 was my least favorite of the franchise. But now it's 7. I'm not a huge fan of it. I liked it up until the Ghostface reveal. I didn't care about the Ghostface reveal before that. And then when the Ghostface, it just was such a letdown for me. But the rest of the film was to me very entertaining. Yeah, there's a lot of holes and there's a lot of things that could have been done better. But that relationship between Sydney and Tatum, it as a mom myself, it it hit home for me. It was different than anything we've seen from Sydney in
Yeah, it was good to
previous
see
films
Sydney as a mom.
as a
That
mom.
story progression.
Yeah. And her motivation when she doesn't tell Tatum her backstory, right? Because in her mind, if I don't talk about it, maybe it'll go away type of thing.
Yeah,
She's
out of
talked
sight,
about
out
it
of
ad
mind.
nauseum, right? And I think part of her was trying to protect her daughter because her daughter is coming up on the age that she was and all of that. But watching her navigate that parent-child relationship in the middle of this insanity that's happening, you've got these crazy people trying to kill you and your daughter. It was to me, like I said, it hit home for me as a mom, and it was really fun to watch Sydney do something that we hadn't seen before. That's something that can happen when you have a franchise that goes on for as long as something like Scream has gone on for. It can get stale. It can get like, okay, I've seen her do everything. How many times can you see Sydney outrun a ghost face? How many times can you see her scream for help or shoot a gun at, like we've seen her do it over and over. We've never seen her have that relationship with her daughter. We
Yeah,
didn't
give her
even know
some
this
stakes.
daughter exists, right?
Yeah,
We thought she had these twin girls, I think it is.
yeah. From 5, I think so. It's like
Yeah.
twins or something.
So I don't think we even knew that she had an older daughter. Not just an older daughter she named after her best friend that was murdered in the first film. Like that's a big
Yeah,
deal.
yeah. It is.
And I know, for writing purposes, I'm sure that probably didn't exist until Kevin Williamson came in and did his script. But it was a fun new thing that we didn't get before. And I will always, like, even if I don't like it, I will always appreciate the work that went into it. I'll still appreciate performances Like, I'll still appreciate the craft and the artistry that goes into it, and then especially if there's an effort to tell a story, for, by, and about women.
Yeah.
Because we as much as we are getting more of that and it's getting better, we still don't see enough of it. We need more final girls.
Yeah.
We need final
And
women.
I don't know, I mentioned this during our Spiral review. Like, I didn't love Spiral, but I appreciated the fact that Chris Rock and Samuel L. Jackson were in, two huge names in Hollywood, loved this franchise and wanted to be in this movie. And I saw where Anne Hathaway's in like 5 movies this year. She's in like 2 horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she's one of the best actors of all time, and she's doing horror now. So
Yeah.
I appreciate that a lot. Like, that's how you get more eyes on it too. Like, you get, we just interviewed this lady, Fabian Therese, and she's talking, she's been mentioning, she mentioned in her interview, she's just getting into the business. So she's a smaller name, but she made a good point where it's like a lot of these, lead, big names in Hollywood, they're wanting to take these kind of horror roles and these thriller roles too, because they just love the storytelling.
Yeah.
And like Anne Hathaway, I mean, come on.
And
that's just it's working.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And the thing about, telling horror stories as an actor, there's so much more to do. There's so much more to explore. There's so much more to like challenge yourself, right? Because drama is great. Listen, there's a genre for everybody, but kind of some of the same techniques and approaches we see them over and over in other genres.
Mm-hmm.
When you have an actor like Anne Hathaway, who is fantastic in pretty much everything she does, doing a horror film, it feels a lot like we're going to see her do something completely new that we've never seen her do. And I don't know that she would have been able to do something like that if it wasn't in a horror film.
Yeah, I agree.
This started as a women in horror, and now it's just talking about how horror is the best thing that ever happened in the world.
Well, women are the best too.
That's true too, Nico. Look at you.
I'm a mama's boy. I'll always have a soft spot.
And you know what? I appreciate that in you, because there's mama's boys and then there's mama's boys, right? I don't think you're the latter. I think you're a mama's boy that appreciates your mom. You appreciate women in general, and it doesn't come from a place of, for lack of a better term, like, the teenage boy nonsense that we were talking about earlier, right? It comes from a genuine, compassionate place, and it feels like there's not enough of that. There's not enough of whether it's in the horror genre, whether it's from the audience perspective, there's not enough of that appreciation of the female perspective, the female stories, and the female kind of evolution in horror. And I appreciate that in you guys, having a podcast like you do. Like, you reach people and you talk about film, and it can feel like, oh, this is just this fun thing that we do, but I think it's important, because we hear art imitates life and life imitates art, but art is so important. And that's another thing that I think people are coming around to. They're starting to realize how important art is. And I always use this as an example. My ex was a huge like doomsday prepper, and he was convinced that because, listen, I got a lot of different skills, but first things first, I'm a performer. I'm an actor, singer, dancer, director. I'm a performer. And his approach to how are we going to handle the end of the world was, what are you going to contribute? Because you're a actor, you're a dancer, and I'm like, you think people aren't going to want the arts when the shit hits the fan? Sorry, can I curse?
Yeah, go ahead.
Forgot who I'm talking to. Think about what happened when the pandemic hit. What's the first thing people did? They gravitated to art. They were looking at movies on streaming. They were going to like virtual museum tours. People gravitated to art because art is our piece. Art is, showing us sides of ourselves that maybe we didn't even know we had. it's exploring other things.
And that's when TikTok blew up, all the dances and the skits and everything, just because you could do it at home and all that.
Exactly. So and I think people take that for granted sometimes. They think of it as just entertainment, but to me, it's so much bigger than that. It's so important to tell these stories. And it's important to consume these stories, not consume them in a formulaic kind of sterile way, but receive them, like I said earlier, like explore them, talk about them. That's why like your podcast is so important to me, because you guys are talking about not just, oh, I liked this film, it was great, it was fun. No, like you're going in depth about stuff, and you each have a different perspective. I think you need more women, I'm just saying. But
no, for sure.
To me, it feels like it's valuable, and I hope people are appreciating that, because it's a good thing to have.
No, I agree with you. It's because we do get a lot of ladies who comment like on our post, and I don't know how we have so many lady listeners, honestly, because I mean, I know Dustin's not serious, but he does crack a lot of jokes, but we do need to get the female perspective more often. It's just like once you build like your theater, like you do stuff like that. Like once you get camaraderie amongst like a crew, it's like if you bring someone new in, you just never know, like throw off the vibes or anything. It's just like we've known, like I would love to, like have a female guest on, obviously, because I don't know. Like I don't have your perspective on life. I don't have your experiences. I don't go through, for lack of a better term, that time of the month. I don't know how that is.
Yeah.
I don't know what it's like to give birth to a child or go through the entire 9 months. I know a lot of things change for women, mental health, your physical health, obviously.
Yeah.
After that, you got a lot to deal with as well. A lot of pressures on women for that. And I just don't have your point of view on things. Like I'm self-conscious about things that you probably think is dumb, but
never. I will never think that. Never. It's not something. It may not be something that I experience, but I would never look at something you're experiencing and think it's dumb, because that's your experience.
Well, I'm not saying you think I'm dumb. You were just saying, why are you? It's like, why do you? It's like you'd be like, why are you worried about that?
Yeah. No. Listen. We all have things that we worry about. We all have things that we probably worry about too much that we shouldn't. Right? Everybody does. It's not specific to gender. It's not specific to age groups. Everybody experiences that. And when you have universal experiences like that, I think it's a good way to kind of build that camaraderie, like you mentioned. Like you have a conversation with somebody that maybe is from a different walk of life, that is a different gender, that is a different age bracket, whatever. And you can learn things that you're like, you know what, I never thought about it that way. Like what, you had mentioned, you never thought about it from that perspective, because you wouldn't. Why would you?
Example.
I don't slight you for that.
An example. I would be scared, walking down the road or whatever at nighttime or just in a strange place, just for my own safety. But I don't have that fear from a woman's perspective.
From a woman's perspective, you don't have that fear.
It's high. It's to me, just from my point of view,
right.
Your fear of just going, heck, just to Publix or Walmart or whatever. I feel like y'all's sense of fear is probably heightened even more just because there's so many creepy people out there.
Yeah.
And Lord forbid you just put on a pair of sweatpants and you just want to be comfortable. Now you're getting gawked at or whatever, and who knows if that person doesn't restrain themselves and just goes off what their instinct is. Like I don't have that fear.
Yeah. And that's a perfect example, because so many women will tell you, and I can tell you from personal experience, I don't have to be at night or in a dark alley to be fearful of what's going on around me.
It can be anywhere. Broad daylight.
It can be a crowded place in broad daylight, and I will still have fear, because that's just the world that we're living in. It sucks, but it's just a statement of fact, right?
Like sometimes Nancy, I'll be driving to work in the morning, like 6 in the morning or 6:15 or whatever. It's dark outside still. I'll see like these college girls or women, running. And I shouldn't think this way, but it's like, why are you doing that right now? Just because for your safety. It's not that you shouldn't have to live with that fear, but it's like, I want to make sure I say this right, because I would never blame a victim.
Yeah.
But if a woman who was running at like 6 in the morning when it's dark and they got abducted, a lot of the message would be, well, why was she out there running?
Right.
It's not her fault. She's just trying to be healthy and proactive in her life.
Right. And I will tell you.
But I do worry about that person, you know.
Yeah. And I will tell you it's very likely that that person is worried too. It
Yeah.
could be a combination of things. Maybe they can't. They can't. Any other time of day, that's the only time they can do their run, whatever. But ultimately, I think the conversation needs to change. Like you said, the conversation would inevitably be, what was she doing out at that time? We need to work on, men and women, we need to work on changing that conversation from why was she out at that time to why did he do what he did? You know, so it starts with us.
Yeah.
You know, it starts with us as people living in the society that we live in, changing the conversation and making it, you know, shifting blame where blame is due. Yeah, there are things that women can do to stay safer, and we do that. I can assure you that if there's a woman running, jogging at that hour in the dark by herself, she's probably got pepper spray on her. She's probably got all sorts of, you know, anti-rape devices, and, you know, she's prepared because we have to be, you know.
Yeah.
And those are stories that I want to see. Those are stories I want to see. That's what I love. I think that's also why you have, like, so many women are into true crime, right?
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are like, I don't understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. Myself, and people have said that to me myself, you know. As a fan of true crime, my personal preference, I like watching it because for me, yes, I've been a victim of violent crime. And unfortunately, the perpetrator did not, there was no punishment. But if I'm watching true crime, it teaches me what I could do better. It teaches me how
signs
I can
to
help
look for.
Someone else, you know, things
signs
to
to
look
look
out
for in people.
Yeah. And if it's a story that ends with, you know, the person, the perpetrator getting the punishment that they deserve, it also kind of has a vicarious, you know, element where I can watch this victim get the justice that I didn't get, and that's very cathartic for me, you know. So there's a lot to unpack, but ultimately it
shared
really
empathy
does,
and shared grief.
Have
you seen Hamnet?
Hamnet. That's the one with.
That's the movie that's the movie Jessie Buckley won the Best Actress for.
I haven't seen. See, that's not my cup of tea.
I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm no disrespect. I'm not a Shakespeare person either, but I wanted to see, you know, as many of the Best Picture nominees as I could before the awards or whatever. There's a scene at the end. I mean, you probably know the story, anyways.
Yeah.
But they lose their son Hamlet. What, I don't know how they call it at the beginning, and she lets out this, you know, heartbreaking cry or whatever. I think that's what won her the Oscar, honestly. Yeah. But at the end, when Shakespeare is doing his play called Hamlet, and they actually have, you know, this guy playing her son, and like she's really, you know, she's kind of pissed off at the beginning. She's like, "That's my son. Why are we watching it in this way?" But towards the end, when he dies, he's reaching his hand out to the audience, and she just grabs his hand. He doesn't know who this is. Like, he doesn't know that he's portraying her dead son. And she grabs his hand, and then the rest of the audience, they all lean in to, like, touch him as well. And it really chokes you up. I'm getting a little bit emotional thinking about it. But all I could think about was she felt so alone in her grief the whole time. She didn't know who to talk to, you know, who to share this with, really. But then, you know, she looks around, and this entire crowd of strangers is all, like, grabbing Hamlet, her dead son, as well. So they're all sharing the grief with her in that moment and throughout time, because we're still telling this story now.
Yeah. And like you said, you know, it's empathy and compassion, you know, and I think that's why a lot of these films resonate with people, is because it comes from a place of empathy. If you're watching The Babadook, and even if, like what Mike said, even if that movie isn't your jam, and you're like, I don't like it, but I can appreciate it and I can understand why people like it.
The kid was annoying, for sure. But you got to put yourself in Essie Davis's shoes, though.
Right.
She is dealing with the loss of her husband while dealing with their son by herself.
Right.
How annoyed do you think she is listening to her son cry and act a fool in the grocery store?
That's exactly it. Even if you don't like the movie, if you can look at it from that perspective, that's just empathy. That's
Yeah.
exactly what it is. Putting yourself in someone's shoes inherently is empathy. And so if, as a woman, if you're watching a movie where, you have a woman character who is a victim and then she finds her power, and by the end of the story, she's reclaimed her power and she's fought back or whatever the case may be, there's something that resonates, at least for me, because it comes from empathy. It comes from like feeling like, man, that would be awesome if that's what I experienced. Like if I'm ever in a situation, heaven forbid, if I'm ever in a situation like that, I kind of want to be like that person. I want to react in that way. And obviously, listen, if you're never going to know how you're going to react until you're in it. You could think all day long, oh yeah, that would never happen to me, but you don't know until you're in it.
Yeah.
But when you're watching a story like that unfold, part of you is kind of connecting it to your own personal experience, whether it's something you've experienced in the past and you're like, man, I can relate, or it's something that you're afraid of experiencing, or if it's completely out of the realm of reality, there's still things about it that you can connect yourself to. I can look at, going back to Sigourney Weaver as Ripley, I can look at that scene, get away from her, you bitch, 1,000 times a day. As a mom, yep, I relate.
Yeah.
I'm not sitting here fighting aliens, but I might as well be as a mom, right? So
Yeah.
it feels like there's an element of empathy in every aspect when you're watching as an audience member. If you're connecting to the story, it comes from a place of empathy. It comes from a place of, in one way or another, relating. Whether it's past, present, future, or just imagining the
I
relation.
agree.
So,
For sure.
yeah, it's just like I said. I feel like women in horror are so important. Having women in horror is so important, and telling women's stories, and even expanding, like telling stories from a woman's perspective, stories that we've never seen before, stories that we've seen before, but told differently. I would love to see, for example, Bride, right? Maggie Gyllenhaal's film, The Bride. It's the story of the Bride of Frankenstein, but it's told in a completely different way. So we know the story of the Bride of Frankenstein. We've seen it. She's only in it for 5 minutes, but we know the story. At least we know the beats, the main beats. But this story is told completely differently. Not just the method of how we receive this film, because it looks different than any other version we've ever even could think we would have, but the story itself is just completely different than what we've been fed about that character. That character was created for the purpose of being a mate.
Yep.
Think about how that feels as a woman. We only exist to serve the man in our life. Like, that's a nasty message to be sending to girls,
Yeah.
right? But when you look at it from the feminist rage perspective, and I know feminism gets a bad rap and people look at it and think it's man-hating. It's not man-hating at all. I need to go on record as saying that. As a proud feminist, it has nothing to do with hating men. Absolutely nothing. It's wanting to walk alongside them and be treated as equals. Are we the same? No. But that doesn't mean that we can't treat each other as equals.
Yeah.
And telling the story from the perspective of, you only exist for the male gaze, that's not a healthy story to be telling.
Let me ask you a question about The Bride, though, because I saw that movie and I thought Jessie Buckley was incredible in that. Well, she was the best part of the movie to me. But do you think the film was effective in the story it was or the message it was trying to tell? Because I left indifferent. I felt like it was just them doing some shit and running away from it over and over and over.
Yes and no. And this is where it's really hard. So I'm gonna go out of horror just for a quick second. Did you see Barbie?
I still haven't seen Barbie.
You haven't seen Barbie. Okay, so Barbie was a movie for a specific person, right? Which is why there were so many men that were like, feminist crap, whatever, right? Now, there were plenty of men that were like, this film is fantastic. But it wasn't for them. It was for the women. So I think it's kind of similar. The Bride is similar in that way, where it's just one of those situations. You can't please everybody. And if you focus on trying to do a film for such a broad audience, you're not going to make anybody happy. So I think it I think it executed what it was intending to execute, but the byproduct of that is that it might have alienated a whole subset of people that looked at it like they looked at Barbie. Oh no, it's just like feminist crap, right? They just kind of dismiss it
See,
because,
I didn't even think like the bride was feminist crap or anything. I didn't think that at all. It's just I get where they're coming from. They didn't want the Jesse Buckley's character to just be, Frank's mate or whatever. Like I get that part, but I don't know. It just to me, it just felt like they were just doing some outlaw shit and then running to the go watch a movie. That's just what it felt like over and over and over. And then you just shoehorn some cops in to come kill them.
but
I don't know.
so
I
that's
thought it
not
was
what I
fine. I
got
thought it was
from
I thought it was an okay movie, but I don't know. I didn't see the messages really, or
Yeah,
maybe I just
so
didn't resonate. I don't know. I just didn't see it like that.
yeah, to me it feels like that's part of that is because you're a guy. Like it just feels like maybe that you won't see those things unless maybe someone points it out and says, okay, so this is what this means from a female perspective. And then you might go, oh, okay, I didn't look at it that way. But it just feels like maybe this is one of those movies that it just wasn't for you. It wasn't
But
meant for
I still
you.
thought it was pretty good though. Like
Yeah,
on
no, it's a
Letterbox,
good movie.
on
I'm not
Letterbox,
in love with it.
I gave it a 3.5 out of 5, so like a 7-ish range. Like I thought it was better than it was worse. I just didn't. I don't know. I just didn't see the message it was trying to say. I guess, or I didn't I mean, maybe it just didn't resonate with me.
Yeah.
Like the
Yeah,
female race thing with Pearl resonates more to me. Like because I can see it better. I don't know. Like
and
it
I
fleshed her
think,
story out a little better. I guess.
well, that story takes place over multiple movies, so there's that. But also, it feels like that one was done more overtly.
Yeah.
I think The Bride had more subtext than Pearl did. Um, and that's just my interpretation. Everybody's going to have their own interpretation. So I feel like maybe there's a part of The Bride that it didn't resonate with you because you're a guy. Like just the simple virtue of the fact that you are a man, you're looking at it from the male perspective, so you're not receiving those messages. You can look at them. You and I can watch the same exact movie, and we're going to get completely different things from it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So I think that could be it. I mean, I don't know. Personally, I liked it. I wasn't in love with it.
Yeah,
But
same.
it to me it felt like, because I love the Bride of Frankenstein, the character, but mostly because of what she should have represented, which is ironic, right? And
I've never seen that movie.
I mean, it's not
A lot of the older Universal monster movies I've never seen though. They just don't do it for me.
Yeah, listen, I saw them when I was younger. We had a rule in my house when I was a kid. We were allowed to rent horror movies as long as we rented a classic too. So I went home, and I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I went home always watching things like Slumber Party Massacre and Casablanca, or Chopping Mall and Gone with the Wind.
Yeah.
So I had a really weird eclectic filmography growing
Balance.
up. So that was part of it, where like I would negotiate with my mom. Okay, listen, Bride of Frankenstein is kind of horror-y and it's a classic. Let's watch this. So that's how I kind of was able to expose myself to films like that. Now I probably wouldn't seek it out because I'm like you, it's not really my thing. They don't really do it for me now. I look back on it as like more nostalgia than anything from when I was a kid. But what Maggie Gyllenhaal did with the character of the bride and with the story, like she obviously changed it. It felt a little more, I guess, Bonnie and Clyde ish.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously Bonnie and Clyde, real people, different sort of situation. But it did have that element to it. But it still felt more symbolic of feminine rage than what the original Bride was trying to say. I don't think the original Bride of Frankenstein was trying to say anything about women. I don't think it was trying to say a damn thing. I think it was really just, it was kind of a metaphor for what it was, right? The bride was made to serve her purpose as the mate of Frankenstein. The Bride of Frankenstein, the film, was made to serve the purpose being a sequel, just adding a mate. Like it kind of
Yep.
has that dichotomy. So it feels like what Maggie Gyllenhaal did with The Bride kind of opened up a box that was never even opened for the original. So that's I appreciate that about it, and I appreciate what she was trying to sell in that story. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite. I liked it, but I'm not in love with it. Part of it is because you had two Frankenstein movies coming out
Yeah,
close to
within
each other,
4 months of each other.
and I was so in love with Frankenstein. Am still very in love with Frankenstein that I almost I'm kind of embarrassed to say this. I kind of almost dismissed The Bride as being like, oh, it can't live up to Frankenstein. And then I was like, you know what? No, I gotta watch it because it's a completely different story. It's not the same. It's not even the same story. It's The Bride,
Yeah.
and this is Frankenstein. So I did watch it because I was like, no, I can't do that. But it didn't. It didn't hit all the same things that I was hoping it would. But it's still, I felt like was a really good story and long-winded way of answering your question. I think it did achieve what it was trying to do to a degree, but I don't think it could have achieved more without just alienating the entire audience because it was meant for a specific subset of the audience, and that's the subset that really loved it. So it did what it was intending to do. If she was trying to do it to a more broad audience, I don't think it did that, but I don't know that she was trying to do that.
That's fair. That's
You
very
know,
fair.
it's just her perspective. She's a great director though, and Jessie Buckley, forget about it.
Yeah.
She's,
I love Jessie Buckley. She's a superstar already.
did we lose Mike? What happened to Mike?
He sent a note. I don't know if you saw it. He said, "Thank you so much for coming on and doing this. You know, he loves getting your perspective. He's got to go make dinner for him and his wife."
Oh, look at that. Now he's just trying to score some points. We love that.
Nah, he really is cooking.
No, I believe him. I believe him. No, I'm glad we were able to do this.
Yeah, we didn't stick to the script too much, but you just want to have a conversation. So that's cool.
Yeah, listen, I don't. I'm a very kind of off the cuff. Like I want to speak organically. Like
Yeah.
we'll we have an idea of what we want to talk about, but I think some of the best conversations are when you just kind of fly by the seat of your pants.
Before we go, I'm gonna ask you one final bonus question to my Spooky Empire panel host. Give me a few of your favorite female horror women in horror that you've got to interview at Spooky. Who are some of your favorites?
Okay, I interviewed Danielle Harris last year. Absolutely love her. We loved it. Danielle Harris. She is a scream queen for sure. She's my generation,
I unfortunately don't get to attend very many of your panels because I'm standing in line all damn day.
I know you gotta come to the panels, man. You're missing so much.
I love going to the panels, but it's like sometimes I might not get to meet this person ever again, and like when your panel goes, then photo ops, then they're at the table. It's hard to balance it sometimes, so you just gotta.
Oh yeah, I know. It's like when you go to like Disney World and everybody's at the parade, and you're like, now's the time to go on the rides.
Yeah,
kind of the same thing, right? You want to take advantage. Everybody's at the panel. Let's go to the table. I get it.
I met Danielle last year again. Like I met her twice. She's awesome. I've met her 3 times actually.
Amazing. We love her. Let's see who else. Now that I think about it, I don't think I've interviewed that many. I did interview Lily Taylor. Loved her. Oh my!
She was great.
She was one of my first ones that I did with Spooky. She was so amazing. One of the things she said to me after we were done, she thanked me for because my approach, every moderator is different. My approach, I do as much research. More often than not, I'm very familiar with their body of work, but I'll do as much research as I can about their work. And then I also go and I watch other panels, I watch other interviews, because I never want to ask them the same questions they've been asked a million times. Nobody wants to hear that. They don't want to hear it. The audience doesn't want to hear it. Like, nobody wants to hear that.
It's usually the audience that asks the same questions over and over.
Yeah. So I'm like, listen, they're going to ask this question when I throw it to the audience anyway. Let me, so I try to dive deep and I try to like really give thoughtful insight into my question. And she pointed it out after. She said, thank you so much. You really clearly put a lot of thought into your question. And I mentioned that to her. I was like, yeah, I saw some of your interviews and I saw you were getting a lot of the same questions. And she said, yeah, I'm really tired of people asking me the same thing. What's it like to work with Julia Roberts? She did Mystic Pizza 30 something years ago. And she was briefly in the movie with Julia Roberts, and she gets asked all the time.
Yeah.
Why? Personally, I don't care. What was it like to work with Julia Roberts? That's not why I'm at this panel, right?
Yeah.
So I want
Like
to ask
we're
questions
interviewing
of
you,
you.
not Julia Roberts. You know.
Exactly. And I want to know, yeah, tell us some fun stories behind the scenes. But to me, when you go to a panel, that's an opportunity to get to know that actor a little more in a setting that you wouldn't necessarily get to know them more about. On social media, it's very curated, all that kind of stuff. And especially if they have a team, they're going to be very specific about what they let get posted. But if you're in a panel, pretty much anything can happen, right? I want to make sure that I'm asking questions that is going to give, number one, it's going to give the audience some insight into this person that maybe they never knew before. And it's also going to, the guest is going to have a fun experience and maybe get asked something they've never been asked before. Because it's a
Yeah.
fine line. I can't just cater to one demo, right? I want to make sure that the audience is happy. I want to make sure the guest is happy, and I also want to make sure that the people who plan the event are happy. So it's a fun gig.
Yeah. Guests open up too whenever you ask good questions, like because. Like, I know you told me like about Henry Thomas. Like he don't want to be asked about ET over and over and over. Or what's it like working for Mike Flanagan over and over and over? So if you can get a good question in there, it gets them to kind of let the walls down too, just to open up a little bit
Oh
because they
yeah,
do this so much.
yeah, and that's like with his interview in particular. That's what I went for. I was like, okay, I'm gonna ask him one ET question, but I'm gonna make it like a natural segue. I didn't have a question prepared. All my questions had nothing to do with ET, but I was like, if there's an opportunity during the course of the conversation where I can just kind of sneak in a quick ET question organically, I'll do that. And that happened, and that was great. And then when it came time to throw it to the audience, everyone in the audience had an ET question. Everyone.
Yep, ever
So
never
I'm like,
fails.
okay, listen, that's what they wanted to ask. That's great. That's your chance. And I also want to say this: if you ever go to a panel at a convention, no matter what the convention is, if you have a question you want to ask, bite the bullet and do it. If you're scared, don't be scared. Just get up there and ask the question because I promise you,
I still
you'll
get
be,
nervous doing it.
yeah, like everybody gets nervous, but you'll be happier that you did it.
Oh
If you
yeah,
don't, you'll walk away and go, damn, maybe I won't get that chance. And I just remembered, it just came into my head. Jane Levy, she's another one I interviewed recently. I absolutely adore her. She is so charismatic. She's so much fun to talk to. She's another one that she's kind of like, she's a scream queen, but we don't think of her as a scream queen. But her performance in Evil Dead
and Don't Breathe. She was great in
and
that
Don't
too.
Breathe. But think about, like, that's one of the things we talked about in the interview I did with her when she did the Evil Dead film. It was like torture. That was her first time being a final girl, and she went through so much, in that film as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
The tree scene, obviously, the fountains of blood being poured on her. She said that it was a very grueling experience, and for a little while, she kind of didn't want to do horror, not because she didn't like it, just because she was like, I didn't realize how much it would take out of me. And just our conversation is one of my favorites that we had. I really enjoyed it. Hopefully, I'll get some really fun ones in this next convention in May. Keeping my fingers crossed.
I liked your panel with Alicia Witt too. Just I think she's so interesting.
Alicia Witt, how can I
She was great. I love
love
Alicia.
her? She's so.
Your sleepaway camping was fun too. Felicia's
Oh,
always a
that
hoot.
was. Let me tell you, that was probably the most fun I've had doing a panel.
Felissa is
She's
insane.
something else.
She's so
I
fun.
love her. She is a character. She's what's the word I'm looking for? She is in this industry. There are so many people, unfortunately, that put on a facade for the
She's
cameras.
genuine.
She is
She's her.
probably the single most authentic person I've ever met in this industry. What you see is what you get. There's
Yep.
no facade. There's no performance. That is her, and it's, personalities. Everybody's different, right? Everybody has a different kind of personality that they gravitate to. I gravitate towards that type of personality, and she is just absolutely delightful. I
She's
love
so fun.
her.
She's so fun.
Yeah, I interviewed Victoria Price. She is Vincent Price's daughter.
Hmm.
She's another one that I loved talking to. We talked a lot about obviously her father's impact on the genre, um, but her relationship with her father was so fascinating to me. If you guys get a chance, please go check out the interviews. It's on my YouTube channel. She's got her own podcast. She talks a lot about love, and what she talks about in that interview that I did with her and in many other interviews. She talks about how that's kind of the biggest lesson she got from her father, and specifically as it relates to the genre, was the love. She saw how fans still come up to her and are like, your father had such an impact on me. Like, seeing that love was so meaningful to her. And if there was anything with her relationship with her father that she felt like was the biggest thing that she takes away, it's that love, the love that she felt from him, the love she feels from the fans still to this day, and the love she has for the fans, even though she's not really a horror fan. And that's another thing that we see a lot of with some of these guests. They're not necessarily fans of horror themselves,
Yeah.
but one of the things that they all almost universally will say is they will go to these conventions with some, especially when they go for the first time, with preconceived notions about the horror community. And when they get there, they're like, wow, you guys are all a bunch of softies.
Yeah.
You guys are really like, we're like, yeah, we're watching people get murdered and mutilated, and we're looking at the kills and judging how gory they are, is going to tell us how much we like it. But at the end of the day, we're filled with joy and love and happiness, and it's a beautiful thing to see people kind of communing when we go to conventions and experiencing it all together.
Like, we interviewed Samantha Scafidi after I met her, and I met her at Spooky Empire in 24. We interviewed her, and she kind of brought that up when she was at a convention. She's like, so one of my favorite moments was I eventually just broke down and asked this woman, it's like, why do you like this stuff? Like, why do you like horror movies? And she said that, I can't remember, it might have been Sydney or Lauren Lavera. I think it was Sydney Prescott, but it was her strength that gave her the strength to leave her abusive relationship. And then she said that's when it clicked for her, because Samantha Scafidi's going through a lot of domestic violence in her past as well. But she said that's when it clicked to her. Like, these movies aren't just bad guy, kill teenager, and then it's heroic at the end, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of people who do feel, bullied or scared, or they're stuck in bad situations, and they find strength in these movies. So I really appreciated that story from her.
That's
I don't have that story. See, that's the thing. That's a different perspective. I don't have the story. I just watched the movies.
Emotional. Sorry, that made me kind of tear up a little bit. That's beautiful. Like, that makes me think of The Invisible Man. Because that movie, I mean, it's in the title. It's about a man, right?
Yep.
That story is not about him. That story is about her.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the difference between, like, the original Invisible Man Universal monster story is about the Invisible Man and all the things that he goes through. But the Lee Whannell version is not about him. It's about her experience, her escaping an abusive marriage, and all of the gaslighting and everything that comes along with it. And unfortunately, yes, it happens to men too, but there are far too many women that have been or are still in those types of situations. And if a film can make them feel like they can do it too, I mean, that in and of itself is worth the price of admission. If one person walks away from a film like that feeling empowered and feeling like they can make a positive change in their life because they saw a fictional person do it, I mean, come on, how can you not love that?
Yeah, exactly.
You don't have to love the movie, but you can love and appreciate what people get from it. And that's what I always try to say. Even if you don't like a film, if I don't like a film, I can look at a film and be like, oh my God, that's garbage. I don't like it. That's not That's my opinion. That is not fact, right? And far too many people state their opinion as fact. We need to look at it from a perspective of it's not for me. I don't like it, but there's somebody out there that does. There's somebody out there that may get something from this. And, when you hear things like, I've heard so many people say to people in panels, celebrities, things like, your movie changed my life, or it inspired me to do XYZ. Like, there are people outside of this fan community that may look at that and go, oh God, really? It's just a movie. It's not that deep. Like people love to say that it's not that deep. No, man, it kind of is. It's actually
Of
really
course, it
that
is
deep.
that deep. Like if you see that movie as a kid, like that role could change who you are as a person forever.
Listen, I will tell you my personal experience. Like I mentioned before, Nancy Thompson is my favorite final girl. Nightmare on Elm Street is my favorite horror movie. Has been since I was 8.
Hey, tell Petey to bring her back for this one.
Right? She is.
You already got Robert and Amanda. Go ahead and announce Heather.
I feel like she's coming. I feel like she's coming. Like I'm manifesting it. But that movie, when I was at the video store back in 19, I looked at the cover. As a matter of fact, I have the VHS of Nightmare on Elm Street. This is what I saw at the video store. I just looked at this cover. Now I need to give you a little context. I grew up in a broken home. My mother was an alcoholic. My father was a police officer. I had night terrors. I had to go to a sleep clinic for my night terrors. So when I saw this, the line that got me was the line right here. It says, if Nancy doesn't wake up screaming, she won't wake up at all. Immediately, I'm like, well, her name is Nancy and she has nightmares and I must watch this movie. And I'm reading the jacket and it talks about, her story. And then I saw the movie and I connected to it because I felt like I could relate to Nancy. Yeah, I was 8 years old. I didn't understand really what I was watching, but I connected it, to it. Watching,
but you didn't have to.
mother.
You didn't have to connect to Freddy Krueger. You connected
Right.
to Heather.
Yeah,
And her
and I
character.
was like, and at that time, all the final girls were like conventionally attractive blondes or lighter brunette. She was a darker haired brunette. I think she's gorgeous, but she was at the time considered not conventionally attractive, just kind of like an average looking girl. That's something that has been said about that casting for many, many years. I'm not breaking news here, but that's something that I felt when I was a kid. I felt like I was just not cute. And again, I related to, she has this type of mother that's very close to the mother I had. And her father was a cop and all those things. And I just was like, I had never experienced that in any film, much less a horror movie, where, my little, not developed brain was connecting the dots to this character. And to me, it was so transformative. That's what got me. Nightmare on Elm Street wasn't even the first horror movie I ever saw. It was the first horror movie that did that for me.
Yeah.
And it just hooked me from the first day, from the first moment. And kind of the rest is history. So it feels like thinking about another 8-year-old kid, another 8-year-old little girl looking at a horror movie and seeing herself in that is just, I'm going to cry. It's just a wonderful thing. And that's what I want to see more of. I want more girls and women to see themselves in these stories and to see the possibilities of what women can do. Listen, we're badasses. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. And this is what I tell to the real Dustins of the world, not the jokey Dustin. The guys who think that women are inferior and things like that. Listen, if they knew how women feel about men who are feminists, we'd have more male feminists, because there are so many men in my life that are all about it. They're all about female empowerment. They appreciate and respect the women in their lives beyond the sexualization part of it.
Yeah.
There's so many men that don't feel that way, but to the men that do, you know, I want to say thank you, and I want to say we see you, we appreciate you, and I hope that it just kind of grows. I hope that we see more of that because, like I said, if an 8-year old little girl sees a horror movie and sees herself in it, or an adult woman is in an abusive marriage and sees a story that she connects with that gives her the impetus to take the step that she's been putting off or she felt like she couldn't do, how can you not want more of that? How can you not want to see people, women specifically, experience that? There's so little of that for us in general. And maybe from a man's perspective, it doesn't feel like there's so little of that. But as a woman, I can tell you there is. And it's just a great, you know, journey that horror is going on for women on screen and behind the scenes.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah. So power to the feminists, man. All genders. We could use more of you.
Wish I could give you a hug right now.
Give me a virtual hug, Nico. No, like honestly, I'm not even like joking. I'm not saying this for any other reason than to be completely genuine. And you and the guys are some of those people. Like I know you appreciate women beyond the obvious. I know that you do. And
Yeah.
and I hope that I've made that clear. But it doesn't there's so many that are not like that. Unfortunately, in the horror genre, horror podcasts, there's a lot of horror podcasts, a lot of horror podcasts out there that is just a group of men, 2 men, 3 men, 4 men, whatever. It's just men talking about these films. And I'm not saying that a woman should be on every male dominated podcast. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that how many podcasts are there out there that are horror podcasts that are only women? We're half of the population, man. You know, so
I've seen like a couple of them, but there's not a lot. There's not a lot.
There's not a lot, and it's it's disproportionate to just kind of the reality of the world, right? We're 50% of the population. We don't get 50% of the representation on screen. We certainly don't get 50% of the representation off screen. Like I mentioned earlier, there's very few cinematographers that are females. The cinematographer for Sinners, I saw an interview with her where she mentioned that when she was getting into that line of work, she actually researched other female cinematographers, and she's like, "Where are they? There are hardly any." So that's changing, and I think it's going to change more. And I think there's no scarcity when it comes to horror. There's something for everybody, on screen and off screen. And there's so many more stories to tell. I personally have written 4 different scripts for my own, female centered horror films. And, there are different parts of the subgenres, they range from psychological horror to slasher to prestige or whatever you want to call it. They go through the spectrum of what we can get from horror, but I want to see more of that. Anytime I see a film that's got a female-centered story, I'm gonna even if the woman is the villain, I want to see that, or if she has an arc where she goes from hero to villain or villain to hero or whatever, I want to see more of that. And I know that a lot of when we're talking about films being made and marketing and all the studio interference and all of that, a lot of times it's the studio executives will make executive decisions about what an audience is going to see, because in their mind, well, we want to get the guys in here, but they're leaving so much money on the table by doing that.
Yeah,
because Shudder just did a documentary. If you get a chance to see it, they just had a documentary special, "The 1,000 Women in Horror," and how impactful women have been on the genre from the beginning. This is not a new thing.
I've seen that. Isn't V Neal hosting that? Doesn't she host it?
Yeah.
Or am I tripping?
Well, I don't know if she hosts it. I don't know if she'd be considered a host, but she's a guest on it for sure.
Okay. I know I've heard of it and seen it
I'm thinking of another
online.
documentary. Sorry, I've watched so many horror documentaries in the last month that my brain is melting them all together. So maybe I'm thinking of another one, but But yeah, it's something that, going back to Frankenstein, the book itself was written by a woman, and the famous story is she and her husband were in Lord Byron's mansion. It was a thunderstorm outside. They couldn't leave. So Lord Byron was like, hey, let's play a game. Everybody write a scary story. Let's see who can write the scariest. Mary Shelley came up with Frankenstein. And when it was initially published, it was published under her husband's name. Because, God forbid a woman actually creates something awesome. But eventually, she was, her name was put on it, rightfully so. But look, here we are, how many decades later, we're still not only talking about it, but we're still making new versions of it. But that's
Yep.
a story that came from a woman hundreds, but you know what I mean, years ago. Um, so, like I said, it's not new. It's not a new thing. It's evolving. It's growing, and I think I'm excited to see where it's going. I'm excited to see what we're going to get from the up and coming artists in the industry, from the people that have been doing this for a while. I want to see more stories of older women. Has been an increase in that too. There's been a lot of what do we want to call it? Maybe like senior citizen horror. There was a film recently with Pete Davidson, The Home. I don't
Yeah.
know if you got to
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the lead, but listen, that cast was filled with elderly people.
The rule of Jenny Penn as well. That was in a
Exactly.
nursing home as well.
Exactly.
But that was
Exactly.
guys though, so
Yeah, but it still kind of speaks to the same issue. There's a documentary that I recently watched. I was able to review it over on the Coca HQ. It's called Silver Screamers, and the premise is it's a filmmaker named Sean Cistern. He got a bunch of senior citizens together who don't have a background in film, and they all created a horror film. And each of these senior citizens were different, did different roles. They were acting on screen, they were doing things behind the scenes, doing Foley and doing the music. Even the artwork for the poster was done by one of these senior citizens. So most of them were women, and to me, I was like, that's so important. I loved watching that from the perspective of how often do you get to see senior citizens kind of being, like, I don't want to say used because that's not the word that I'm looking for, but being appreciated for what they can bring to the table,
yeah.
right? You don't see that very much,
You don't.
and if we're lucky, we're all going to get there if we're lucky. So I think while we still can, I think we should focus on trying to change the conversation to open it up for more women, for more women of a certain age telling those stories, showing how it can be done in all the different aspects of it, and sharing it with the next generation, because that's how things change, right? Nothing happens in a bubble. So if this current incarnation of horror can grow to the next generation being, it's not even a conversation that's necessary because it's just the thing that, like, we're not sitting here having a conversation about why we don't see enough men on the screen. That will never happen.
Nope.
Right? But if that was the conversation, that would be the thing that we would be talking about, and that would be how we would try to shift it for the next generation. So that's what we need to do now with women in horror. Have the conversation now, take the action that's needed, whether you're in the film industry as an artist or whether you're a moviegoer. Going to see these movies, like in the theater, yeah, the theater industry is struggling. There's a lot of reasons for that, in my opinion. But if you have the opportunity, if you have the means, I know it's not always doable because it's not cheap, but if you have the resources and you're able to, try to see a movie in the movie theater right now. And you and I have talked about this. It feels like people go to movie theaters, not you, because you're chronically at the movie theater and I love every second of it. But a lot of people only go to a movie in the movie theater if it's like an event film, the Oppenheimers, the Barbies, the Wickeds of the world, right? But what about the ugly stepsisters of the world? If it's released in the film and you're able to go see it and you have the means to do it, I would recommend doing it.
Look, I'll give you an example before we go because I got to pee really bad.
That's
But
okay. We're gonna cut that, right?
The Substance, when me and Dustin went and saw
Yes.
that a couple years ago, we had one screening apiece at our theaters. One.
Wow.
That's it.
Wow.
But after the one screening that we got, the word of mouth was so strong, it kept it in theaters and it got more and more and more. So, like, me and them knew nothing about this movie. We just saw there was a horror movie. It's playing tonight. Let's do an instant reaction. So we went and saw it. And was like, dude, that movie was incredible.
Yeah.
And like that movie was really special. Not even just from like a, I mean, I'm sure like I do appreciate female director, two female leads that were great. The message was great, but just the fact that just the word of mouth was just so impressive with how, because it didn't get much marketing. I mean, it came from Mubi. Have you ever heard of Mubi before then? I haven't.
I had heard of it, but on the periphery, I wasn't really paying attention to
Yeah, I mean, it's not Warner Brothers
it.
or
Right.
or even like Neon or A24 or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's Mubi, but the word of mouth of that movie was so strong it kept it in theaters and it made a ton of money thanks to just
Yeah.
word of mouth.
And
It was incredible.
and it's one
I've
of
never
those-
seen anything like that.
Yeah, yeah, and that can happen. Word of mouth is a great thing, and we live in a world now that word of mouth feels almost like the default setting for a lot of these films. It's much easier to spread word of mouth. We've got social media and the internet now. Like when before in the olden times, word of mouth was literally word of mouth. Like you had to say the words with your mouth to communicate it to somebody so they can go see it, right? But
Yeah.
now we have so many more opportunities to spread the word about things. That's how we get eyes on the things that we want to get eyes on. And that story is so important because yeah, it's a body horror movie. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but you have these two beautiful actresses that are two different generations telling the story about that exact thing, right? About women aging out of the industry and being replaced by a younger version. It's a tale as old as time. It's such an important story, and it's told from Demi Moore's character's perspective. It's not told from a man telling you about what a woman would feel. So that, and then of course, because you've got the female perspective behind the scenes, that adds another layer to it. And that's the one of the beautiful things about horror movies. I think horror movies, it's something specific to that genre where there are plenty of other films in other genres that have layers to them, but it feels like horror is very in tune with that, where there's so many layers to the story. And in the substance in particular, it's the story has layers, but the meaning behind it has layers to it. And I think that's why it was so successful, because it really touched a lot of people's pressure points
Yeah.
in that way.
And before I let you go and we get out of here, I want to ask you your opinion on this.
Sure.
Obviously, it had Dennis Quaid's character in there who was very critical of Demi Moore, but it also shown how other women can be critical of other women as well. Do you have any thoughts on that, like the pressures and all that?
Yeah, it's it sucks. Mean girls exist, you know. I think, and
That's what I think. That's what Coralie was going for. She wasn't just calling out like the old men in Hollywood, but she was calling out like other actresses. You got to support each other.
yeah, I think it's a symptom of a bigger problem that does play into the male side of things, right? Where it's you hear the term pick me girl, right? What does that mean? It means it's a woman who's trying to get the attention of a man. Those women exist. And I think because there can be men, and I have to word this so carefully because I don't want to insult men in general. I know it might come out that way. That's not what I'm trying to convey. I think there can be men who will pit women against each other knowing that that's what will happen. And it's almost like they, drop the bomb and walk away and let the cat fight ensue type of thing, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, women do need to be more supportive of each other. But I'm not the type of person that's like, we should just support each other because we all have the same parts. No. Because there are some women that, maybe not so great. But ultimately, I think it should be more of let's see what we can work with together, because people are different. Sometimes it's gender based, sometimes it's upbringing and walks of life and things like that. Not all personalities mesh, some clash. That can happen with women, that can happen with men, it can
Oh
happen
yeah.
with anybody, you
Oh
know.
yeah.
But I think there's a certain element of that kind of infighting that can happen with women that is influenced by the man's perspective. I think it would not happen as frequently without the man's perspective. That whole situation that happened in Substance was the catalyst was what the man did to her, right? Without that, we wouldn't have the story.
True.
So I think that's kind of, does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. No,
I'm
I
just
get it.
rambling on again.
No, I get it.
So yeah, that's my thought. Yeah, we should support each other, but honestly, I would love more than that. I would even love more to see more men supporting women without there being a catch,
Yeah.
you know, because there is a lot of that. You know, we support you, but if we can get something out of you,
Oh yeah.
you know, so it's like, well, what would you do when there's nothing to be gained?
Yeah.
That's to me the true measure of a person.
Yeah. That's a big
You know,
problem across a lot of things, but
yeah.
I get where you're coming from for sure.
And look, women are guilty of it too, but that's not the conversation we're having. So,
No, no,
you
no.
know,
I'm just talking about like guys. Like a lot of guys will like, well, I'll do this, but will you do this for me too? It's not like I'll just do it because I'm being helpful or compassionate or anything like that. You
yeah,
got any
that's
final thoughts, Nancy, before we wrap it up?
no, I mean, other than
This has been
just
fun.
to
I've had a
kind
good
of,
time
me
talking.
too. I'm really thankful that you guys were even open to doing this. You know, like you said, I reached out to you. I thought this would be a good, fun conversation to have, particularly in the month of March. I'd love to come on anytime you guys will have me or review with you guys or whatever. Um, but yeah, that's my last thoughts. I just want to say thank you guys for being open to doing this and having the conversation, because not a lot of guys would, and you
Yeah,
guys, you know, you wanna have the conversation, so I appreciate
absolutely. I'm always open to hearing other point of views and all that. Like when we reviewed Get Out, I'll just tell the story before I get out of here. When we did Get Out, I asked a guy who was friends with all of us on Twitter. It's like, hey, can you? He was a black man, obviously. Can you give me your thoughts on the movie Get Out and like the meanings, the themes, how it resonated to you as a person? Because I can't relate to Get
that.
Out.
Right? Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
what did you as a black man think about it?
Exactly, exactly. And I think more people in general, whether they're female, male, or other, I think more people need to seek out other people's thoughts from their perspective, because I think that would solve a lot of problems,
Yeah,
or at the
I
very
agree.
least would minimize a lot of problems. You know, I think a lot of I'm a big fan of communication. Obviously, I'm a talker, but I think a lot of problems can be fixed and even avoided with proper communication. And part of that is asking questions, talking to somebody, getting their perspective. I had this conversation with somebody recently where he was telling me his perspective. I was telling him my perspective. He kind of dismissed my perspective because he can't relate. And I said, see, that's the problem inherent to what we were taught, the topic we were talking about. Too many people aren't interested in hearing somebody else's perspective because it doesn't align with theirs. So it's like, oh, well, it doesn't exist. If we sat down and had a conversation and maybe learned something from each other, things might improve. And I think
I
that's the
agree.
first step. And we can do it through art, through horror.
Hmm. I agree. Nancy, I really appreciate you coming on. This has been a great time. We'll definitely have to get you back on again,
Yeah.
talk more about other things for sure.
Anytime. Anytime.
But
Thanks for
yeah,
having
you
me
want to
on.
shout
I
out your
appreciate it.
Instagram or anything? If you
Yeah,
want
I
anybody to follow
am.
you.
I'm Nansanity Official. That's my private account. Well, it's not private. It's my personal account. And if you want to follow the horror account, it's Cult of Horror HQ. Right now, it still has the Sci-Fi Face-Off name, but we're going to be transitioning the brand completely over to the Cult of Horror HQ. If you're an artist in the horror genre, please reach out because we want to spotlight as many artists as we can and fans too. So yeah, see you guys at Spooky.
That's awesome. Definitely see you at Spooky. Thank you so much, Nancy, for coming on.
Thank you, Nico. Sorry it went long.
It's fine.
All right.
Thank you so much, everybody. I'll see you next week. And in the meantime, take care of yourself.
Just want to remind everybody